One of the big differences between going intravenously and taking any kind of supplements orally is that for you to reach the actual therapeutic dosage that's going to give you the results that you need, unfortunately, you can't reach those therapeutic dosages by mouth, especially when you have a toxic overload in your body.
Hello, I'm Dr. Wendy Myers. Welcome to the Myers Detox Podcast. And on this show, we talk about all things related to detoxification, how heavy metals and chemicals cause so many of our chronic health conditions today, and how to detox them. But we also touch on bioenergetics and anti-aging and, advanced topics in biohacking. And today's no different. We're going to be talking with Sam Tejada. He's the founder of Liquivida IV Therapy Clinics, and we're going to be talking about IV therapy for detoxification and anti-aging and rejuvenation. And the key takeaways in today's show are how IV therapy provides 100% nutrient absorption, bypassing digestive issues, which so many people have, and allowing for therapeutic dosages not achieved orally. We also talk about how IV therapy addresses nutrient deficiencies at the cellular level. For instance, B1 and electrolyte dehydration for hangovers. It's very popular. And we'll talk about the nutrient and detox IVs available at Liquivida, like vitamin C, glutathione, and Myers detox cocktails for detoxification, chelation therapies like EDTA and DMPS for heavy metal detox. We'll talk about NAD for cellular energy and mental clarity. That's a 4-hour infusion that's great for improving energy, great for people with chronic fatigue. And we'll also talk about phosphatidylcholine for cellular membrane repair. So lots of really good topics on the show today. And so Liquivida offers comprehensive wellness services beyond just IV therapy, including hormone optimization, regenerative medicine like exosomes, like stem cell therapies, peptides, and medically supervised weight loss. It also offers personalized medicine, including comprehensive blood work, beyond standard panels, body composition analysis to track lean mass and fat types, resting metabolic rate, and genetic testing to identify toxins and their impact on gene expression. So very, very comprehensive analysis and treatments available at Liquivida. And our guest today, Sam Tejada, he is the author of How to Win in Modern Wellness. And he's a former paramedic, firefighter, revolutionizing the healthcare industry with his personalized approach to modern wellness. So, being the founder of Liquivida with franchise locations throughout the US, Tejada couples his medical background with a deep desire to help others lead healthier, happier lives. And as a true pioneer in modern wellness, Sam's an expert in transformative wellness services that cater to individual needs like IV therapy, weight management, regenerative therapies, hormone replacement therapy, and advanced aesthetics and procedures. Sam is a regular speaker and participant in major industry events, including AMMG, A4M, and he's also been featured on KTLA's morning show, News Nation, Cheddar News, Essence, and many more. You can learn more about Sam and find an IV clinic near you at liquivida.com. Sam, thank you so much for joining the show.
It's a pleasure to be here,
Yeah, so why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? And I know you used to be a paramedic. How did you parlay into the health and wellness field?
Yeah, so I worked for the fire department as a firefighter-paramedic, and I did 12 years out on the road, um, you know, answering the 911 phone calls, medical emergencies, traumatic injuries, and vehicle accidents, and then also, the fires that we had, warehouse fires, house fires. And firefighters, we work 24 hours on and we're off for 48 hours. So typically firefighters have some kind of side hustle on their days off to supplement their income. So what I decided to do is get into the health and wellness space. And I started working with a company called Cenegenics. They were the pioneers in a lot of the alternative medicine treatments. And their chief medical officer, Dr. Robert Willicks, who was a heart surgeon, who decided to leave heart surgery to prevent patients from actually ending up on the surgical table. He took an approach to go more into the preventative medicine side and became a functional medicine expert. And he was my mentor. I started out from a young age of 19 in the functional medicine space. I'm 37 today, so almost 2 decades. And what I started noticing on my days off, more on this preventative health side, I started noticing that our medical system was truly failing the patients I was transporting to the hospital, right? When you work in these neighborhoods as a firefighter paramedic, you get to know the people that live in these neighborhoods. So when you run that first 911 call, when they get that acute illness, and then all of a sudden you're taking them to the hospital again 6 months later, and then all of a sudden you're taking them to the hospital every other month, then every month, then every other week, then every other day, you start to question, well, I'm taking this person to the hospital where the doctors are at, the experts. Why do they keep on circling down the drain? And that's just because our medical system, it's geared more into this reactive medicine instead of more of that proactive preventative approach. And
Mhm.
that's why I said, you know what? My time is not being served in the best way, being this hero as a firefighter paramedic. I think really where my time will be served properly is focusing more on this preventative health side. And that's why I just made the switch after 12 years. I said, you know what? I am a hero about 10% of the 911 calls that come in where you pull someone out of a burning building. But the other 90%, it was just seeing this vicious cycle that we've created. So I started Liquivida.
Yeah. Yes, and yeah, that's why I wanted to have you come on and talk about IV therapy. It's super, super popular. I mean, I've seen a lot of IV clinics popping up all over the United States, all over the world. Even in Mexico, where I used to live, there were people come out to your house and do IVs, but lots of IV clinics down there as well. So why don't you talk about your clinic specifically and like where can we find it, where we can go and learn more about the IVs and the benefits of them.
Yeah, so Liquivida is a nationally based company. We're headquartered out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Other people consider it paradise once in a while, right? It's beautiful down here, but so we're headquartered in Fort Lauderdale. We have locations nationwide, but we also are on the pharmacy side. We created a proprietary product, which is the vitamin IV infusion kit. So what we've done is we've created vitamin IV therapy easy for medical practitioners to implement it into practice. So we have well over 4,000 doctors that offer the Liquivida IV therapies within their practice, which you can find all of these facilities, all 4,000 of these doctors on our website. You can find either Liquivida locations or any of our affiliates that utilize the products.
If you're taking protein powder, you need to stop and listen to this. So the Clean Label Project recently tested 160 of the top selling protein powders in the US. So they tested 83% of the market, which is 70 different brands, and 40% of the products tested exceeded Prop 65 safety thresholds for lead. 21% had more than 2 times the Prop 65 safety thresholds for other heavy metals and toxins. 65% of chocolate protein powders tested over the Prop 65 safety thresholds, and 77% of plant-based protein powders tested above these thresholds as well. That's definitely not what you want from products that are supposed to support your health, particularly it's something that you're consuming daily. What this study found was that Purie's PW1 protein powder was awarded the #1 cleanest protein powder out of 130 different brands. So the choice is clear. That's why I love Purie's PW1 whey protein powder. Every batch is third-party tested against 200 plus contaminants. They don't sell any product unless it passes these tests, and they make all of their third-party tests available via a QR code. So you can scan this QR code and you can see exactly what is in this product and what this batch tested for. No other brand is doing that because they won't pass the test. Each serving gives you 21 grams of minimally processed, clean, high-quality whey protein powder from pasture-raised cow's milk. So no hormones, no GMOs, no pesticides, nothing to worry about. And I personally love the bourbon vanilla flavor. You get real vanilla seeds from bourbon vanilla from Madagascar, which is known as the best vanilla in the world. It's high quality. It tastes amazing. Even my daughter loves it. Even my daughter mentioned how she loves the vanilla flavor in it. And I work with Puree on an amazing deal for you. You can get 20% off, or if you choose the already discounted subscription, you get almost a third off the price. But you're only going to get this deal if you visit my exclusive link at puree.com/Wendy and use coupon code Wendy. So that's PUORI.com/Wendy, WENDY, and just use my code Wendy to get 20% off this amazing deal of the highest quality whey protein powder that's been tested for 200 plus contaminants. So you can't beat this for quality. This is my number one recommendation for protein powder because the results are in. Puree is the number one cleanest testing protein powder on the market. Okay, fantastic. And so tell us, what are some of the benefits of IV therapy? Now, this is something I've personally done. I've done vitamin C therapy, I've done glutathione, I've done Myers detox cocktail. There's a lot of I love the minerals. You can get IV hydration. When I would go into a clinic, I'd see people that had partied the night before. We're going in there to get, rehydrated, replumped up again to relieve a hangover. So there's a lot of different uses. And I've done NAD infusions before. So tell us about, the ones that you offer.
Yeah, so the goal with what we do with IV vitamin therapy is basically feeding your body the raw material that it needs of what's missing. So I'll start off with one of the things that people always ask about this hangover drip. Well, the reason why you feel so great after being hungover is that you have a nutrients deficiency, right? You have a B1 deficiency at that point in time. You have an electrolyte imbalance from drinking alcohol, and you're dehydrated. So what ends up happening is we have the capability intravenously to be able to supplement all of those three things that I just mentioned directly at the cellular level, which is directly in your bloodstream. Now, when you start thinking about a lot of other things that could be causing some of these deficiencies and some of these illnesses that people have, your body actually utilizes over 35 different essential nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and amino acids for it to just function. So when you have certain deficiencies, you have to supplement them. And what the problem is today is that a lot of the foods, fruits, vegetables that we're eating that are supposed to be nutrients rich, they're dense on those nutrients. They don't have them just because of the way they're growing. The soil doesn't have the nutrients that it needs. So what's happening is the foods that we eat don't have the nutrients that we need. And then furthermore, a lot of people have digestive issues. So when they have these digestive issues, they're not breaking down the foods or absorbing these nutrients that they're supposed to. So they have these nutrients deficiencies. So what we do when we go intravenously, we bypass the digestive route and allow the person to get 100% absorption at the cellular level.
Yes, that's fantastic. Yeah, and I think if so many people are mineral deficient, and it's so important for people that any way they can get minerals in their body. And so talk to us about how doing IV therapy can help support the detoxification processes, because you can do glutathione infusions, you can do the Myers detox cocktail. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so the detox process with the IV therapy, it's one of our top things that we do for health span and longevity. Right now, we live in an environment that's just totally full of toxins. The food we eat, the environment that we're in, we're just exposing ourselves to toxins every day. And can we try to remove a lot of these toxins out of our day-to-day lifestyle? We can, right? I drink out of a glass bottle just so I'm not getting microplastics inside of my body, but you can't remove all of the toxins out of your life. So what do? Then what we have to focus on is being able to detoxify the body with different modalities that are available. And part of that is enhancing the detox pathways in the body. So one of the most important things to do is feeding your body the proper antioxidants to be able to detoxify itself, right? And enhance those detox pathways. So one of the number one antioxidants that we offer is glutathione. And Doc, I know you know what the glutathione is, right?
Yeah.
It's the Mother Nature's number one, the top, antioxidants that there is. Your body naturally produces it from the liver, but as we age, things start to diminish. You don't have the appropriate optimal levels. So what we do is we do the glutathione intravenously, and it helps detoxify the body. And what we like to do at Liquivida, our medical providers, we're data driven. So we like to get a baseline blood work, lab analysis, right, to see exactly where their liver enzymes are at, how the rest of their body's functioning, what type of deficiencies they have, and then from there be able to trend what the results are, what is happening based on the results intracellularly in their body.
Yes, and that's great because so many people are deficient in glutathione simply because we're using up so much of it because of our toxic load, our body burden of toxins. And it's just ironic, the more toxic you become, it breaks down your body's ability to detox the very
Right.
things that can be contributing to so many health issues today. So I think it's really, really important to get that glutathione online, and you can do that in a way you can't do with supplements, like you can with an IV. Can you talk a little about that, like doing IVs compared to just taking supplements?
There are a lot of great supplements out there, but one of the big differences between going intravenously and taking any kind of supplements by mouth orally is that for you to reach the actual therapeutic dosage that's going to give you the results that you need, unfortunately, you can't reach those therapeutic dosages by mouth, especially when you have toxic overload in your body, right? So I'll give you an example. Vitamin C, ascorbic acid. By mouth at once, you could take about 2 to 3,000 milligrams at once. If you take anything above that, most people start to get some kind of irritation in the digestive route. So they'll get nauseated, diarrhea. Some people throw up, just because your digestive system can't handle a large amount. Intravenously, now mind you, I said 2 to 3,000 by mouth. Intravenously, we can go up to 100,000 milligrams intravenously. Now, that's not the typical person. We usually do that with chronically ill patients, patients with cancer, autoimmune issues. The vitamin C above 50,000 milligrams works differently, works as an oxidizer versus an antioxidant. But it just allows you to kind of realize what you can do when you go intravenously versus going by mouth.
Yes. Yeah, and the vitamin C is so important. Like I had my ex, he had COVID, and we had somebody come to the house and do an IV vitamin C infusion. He was so much better. I think it's so important for anyone with some infections and chronic health conditions. We need to get that vitamin C online in a way that you can't with just supplementation.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yes. And so can you talk about some other types of IVs that one can get or would expect at your clinic?
Yeah, so we have different type of IVs that will help the detox pathway as well too. We have our NAD IVs. A lot of our patients that come in for the NAD IVs, it's been known as like the brain reboot, helps you have a better clear mind, mental focus. It also helps enhance your body's immune system, recharging the mitochondrial cells as well too. So the NAD is a great infusion. That one I don't do too often myself, just because you have to sit for about 4 hours. It's a longer infusion. I typically do the subcutaneous injections, which is a small injection in the stomach, smaller dose, but I still get the NAD. Some of the other IV drips we do chelation therapy, where we use calcium disodium EDTA. So when we start talking about toxins, there's multiple different toxins that are out there, right? One of the blood draws that we do, we test for over 900 different toxins that someone can potentially get exposed to. Now, depending what the toxin is, there's different type of ways to detox those toxins, because those toxins can sit in the fat cells, they can sit in your digestive tract, they can sit in your bones. So depending on what the toxin is, we have different IV drips for that. The chelation, the calcium disodium EDTA, we use that primarily for heavy metals. If we have a patient that has too much lead toxicity in their body, we would do calcium disodium EDTA, the chelation. We also use DMPS for high levels of mercury. Patients that have high levels of mercury, first we want to figure out why they have this high level of mercury. We do a test that's by Quicksilver with Dr. Christopher Shades. He's a PhD who specializes in a lot of these type of heavy metal toxins. So we run a test where we can figure out if it's organic or inorganic mercury, right? What source is it coming from? So we have a better understanding of what we're dealing with that toxin. And then it's a process, right? If that mercury is sitting in the digestive route, we like to put our patients through a candida cleanse. We like to aggravate that mercury with some high dose glutathione, make that mercury into a free radical. So when we do the DMPS, it can get attached to that mercury and release it out of the patient's body. So that's another one that we do. And then most recently, one of the ones that we're doing a lot of is the Plaquex, right? It's the phosphatidylcholine intravenously. So that's what we call lipid membrane exchange therapy. So that's one of the things that we've seen based on a test that we've done out of Germany, where we test for these 900 toxins, where we could actually see the DNA adduct, right? The toxin, we can actually see what gene it's actually bonded to and what potential gene expression is changing, causing whatever disease that they have that develop, be it Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, many different things, cancers, and everything else, right? So part of that, when we start putting these patients through the detox protocols, phosphatidylcholine is one of them that we do intravenously as well.
I want to take a minute to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, True Energy Skincare. So they have an amazing serum that I am cuckoo about. I've been using their facial serum here for well over a year for a reason. This is just bar none my favorite product, and it's very, very light. It's just a serum you'll put on under your moisturizer. And the reason I use it is because it's a frequency-based skincare. So they have frequencies imprinted on this serum that improve collagen, improve elastin. You know, collagen is that support matrix in your skin that makes it look firm and juicy. And we lose that as we age. That accelerates rapidly after we hit menopause. You lose 30% of your collagen within 2 years after menopause. So I'm using everything I can get to improve collagen. And this has over 2,000 frequencies imprinted on it, and that are for skin nutrition to help the appearance of your skin, the fine lines, the age spots, and it will smooth out the texture of your skin as well. And this has been my secret weapon that I've been using to improve my skin, look and feel and health for, like I said, for well over a year. And so I'm not promoting this because they're a podcast sponsor. I'm promoting this because this is one of my secret weapons. I love this product and I use it every single night under my moisturizer. And this has no toxic ingredients in it whatsoever. And it has lots of nutritive ingredients as well. It's got fruit enzyme extracts. It's got oat kernel extract. It's got oat beta glucans. It's got beech bud extract, and it's got algae and chlorella in it as well. So lots of great nutrition in this, as well as the frequency enhanced aspects of it. Because any old product can moisturize your skin. That doesn't impress me. But the results you get from this are bar none, and that is why I highly recommend it. They have a very good offer for my listeners. Go to trytrueenergy.com/Wendy. That's trytrueenergy.com/Wendy and get a very, very special deal for my listeners. Yeah, that's so key because so many people are having cellular membrane issues just because their membranes are not intact. We're eating so many seed oils, and these seed oils act like, and the hydrogenated oils act like plasticizers and just destroy our cell membranes. And that's really interesting that that you're doing testing that shows the genes that are affected by different toxins. I think so many people are you know, healthy, and then one day they fall ill and the doctor can't figure out what's going on, or they have develop one symptom or health issue after another. And that's because these toxins go in and actually break our genes. They break our DNA and we start expressing and having different genetic based health issues that are being caused by the toxins in the first place. So I think that's so interesting that you're offering testing that can just delve into it on that level, not just looking for
Yeah,
toxins.
And Doc, you're absolutely right. And for any of the listeners that are not medical, that are trying to understand when we're talking about genes and the expression, I'll give an example. Right, we have tumor suppressant genes in our body that should always be on. Right, in case a tumor starts to develop, it suppresses that tumor and doesn't allow it to grow into a cancer. So what ends up happening if a toxin is connected to that gene and turns the expression off, then that's where disease starts to develop. So our goal is to be able to remove that toxin through these different IV drips and the different modalities we do, infrared sauna, a bunch of different things that we do besides the IV drips. But the IV drips help a lot. And remove that toxin, so then at least we can try to turn that gene expression back on, right? And then in hopes to then remove that disease or put that disease in reverse.
Yes, yes. And you mentioned the NAD IVs before, and NAD is so amazing. Like I've read different research that it can just really turn around people that have chronic fatigue syndrome. Really can help feed their mitochondria, little powerhouses of our cells, to help to create more energy, and that could be like that missing component in people being able to create energy. And yeah, and it's not the most pleasant IV. I've had it done before too, because I just had heard so much about it. I wanted to try it, and I sat there, I think it was like 2.5 hours. I
Wow.
sat there and did one, and it was interesting. But I could see where that's be so helpful for people with chronic fatigue that they're just not able to produce energy. They don't have the basic building blocks to do so.
Yeah, it all comes down to science, right? When you start really looking at the metabolic pathways in the body, and you see all of these beautiful little cycles, right? Like the Krebs cycle. And it could be just one thing that's off, that's just throwing your entire body off. So when you find a medical provider, a practitioner, or even a health coach that understands a lot of the metabolic pathways and understands metabolic health, that's where, for me, that's the change that I want to see in the course of medicine. Doctors taking more of that deeper dive and really working with patients when it comes to the metabolic health.
Yeah, and can you talk about some of the therapies you have that are, say, anti-aging or can help to rejuvenate patients?
Yeah, so we have a variety of services depending on what their deficiencies are, what their signs and symptoms are, lifestyle. So the biggest thing we do for age management is going to be nutrition, right? Is making sure what you put in your body is going to be something that's going to feed for positive results for health span and longevity. Then exercise. Exercise is extremely important. A lot of the times you don't hear me use the word exercise. I just say movement because some people are scared to exercise. Consistent movement for at least 20 to 30 minutes. Start off with that. If you live in a warm place, you like to garden, go garden for 20 to 30 minutes nonstop. Move your body. It's important. It's important for longevity. It's important for health span. And then, we offer a slew of other services depending on the deficiencies you have. We do hormone optimization, right, for both males and females. We also do medically supervised weight loss, where we use nutrition, exercise, and then also certain peptides to assist with the weight loss process. And then we also have our regenerative medicine side. That's going to be more for people that are having certain injuries, or even for anti-aging, where we can help, reduce the number of senescent cells in the body utilizing stem cell derived products like exosomes. And then the one that a lot of people love to talk about that we're actually marketing more of is our sexual health division. So as you age, most people end up losing their sex drive, both males and females. And when you go through that process, it can cause a whole nother set of issues. It could cause, issues with self-esteem. It can cause issues with depression. And then it just puts you into the spiral where you just don't feel good because you don't have a sex drive, and now you're having a conflict with your partner. So we have different modalities and medications that we use, peptides as well, for sexual health for both males and females.
So this episode is brought to you by Chef's Foundry. They've got a fantastic line of cookware called P600. It's totally non-toxic. I think people don't realize that when they're cooking, most people's cookware is adding toxins to their healthy food, that people spend so much money on healthy organic food, and then cook it in toxic cookware. And so that includes cast iron, which I do not recommend. It adds way too much iron in a form that we can't absorb. People use aluminum cookware, which is very inexpensive, and it's used at most restaurants, giving us tons of aluminum. People are also using ceramic cookware, which can leach toxins into your food. And not to mention the nonstick cookware. It just has so many PFAS or PFAS that is so toxic. It's one of the forever chemicals. So you really have to pay attention to what you're cooking in. So that's why I recommend the P600 line by Chef's Foundry, so that you can have peace of mind when you're cooking and you're not getting any nasty chemicals like lead or cadmium or nickel or PFAS in your healthy food. You can get a special discount for my listeners by going to bit.ly/Myers Detox. So that's bit.ly/Myers Detox, MYERS DETOX, to get an exclusive discount just for my listeners. I want you to be thinking about what you're cooking your food in, and I highly recommend the P600 line by Chef's Foundry. Yeah, nothing a little testosterone can't solve. But yeah, I love the peptides. I do a lot of peptide therapy myself. I'm taking pineal for sleep, and I do take tirzepatide as well for weight management. I think people need, as we age, our GLP-1 agonists also start to decline, just like our hormones, and a little bit of supplementation of that can really go a long way to help many different organ systems in the body, not just for weight loss. But can you talk about some other peptides that you offer? You offer a wide range of services. This is not like any IV clinic that I went to. They weren't offering all these things.
Yeah, our clinics initially it started as IV therapy. Now ours are full-blown wellness centers where we actually do medical aesthetics as well. We have different type of specialized lasers for age management, wrinkle reduction. So our facilities are beautiful facilities. It's more than just IV therapy. We do everything from pulse electromagnetic field therapy, the PMF. But to touch on going back to the peptides, because you asked the question there, and to go back to the tirzepatide, which I've taken it myself, and sometimes you get people that get a misconception of the GLP-1. Oh, it's not good for you. It's doing this to this person. It's doing that. If you do it correctly with the right clinical supervision, then it's fine. There's a lot of benefits behind it. There's a lot of benefits with the product. And my biggest thing for people to do is do blood work. See exactly where everything's at by doing blood work, a comprehensive blood work to be exact, not just the typical blood work your doctor does, which is 2 to 3 pages. I'm talking about looking at micronutrient deficiencies, looking at inflammation markers, looking at hormones, all of that stuff. With the tirzepatide, one of the biggest things with the GLP-1 drug is that people started to lose muscle weight. Now, if you get a body composition analysis from the beginning, instead of just standing on a regular scale that just only tells you total weight, let's understand what your body's actually made up of, right? What is that total weight made up of? I want to know how much intracellular water you have, extracellular water you have as well. I want to know how much adipose fat you have versus visceral fat, which visceral fat is that hard fat that lines the organs, which if you have a high percentage, it's indicative of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and many other things, right? And I want to know how much lean mass you have. So now as you go through that medically supervised weight loss program, we're going to trend those results. So at the point in time that we see that you are losing muscle mass, well, now we have to switch a few things around, right? We're going to have to go ahead and switch either your nutritional intake that you have, or we might have to enhance some of your exercise strength training to make sure you're not losing that lean mass. And sometimes we have to adjust the dose of your medication as well too. So part of that, when I talk about testing, body composition analysis is extremely important. Blood work is important. And then we also do a test, which is called the RMR test, which is the resting metabolic rate, where we have the ability through a system called PNOE, where we do the RMR and also a VO2 max. The RMR, we have the ability to see how many calories you're burning at a rested state. And then depending on what you're trying to do, either put on lean mass, build endurance, lose weight, at that point, it allows us to figure out what are the macros and micros that you need to intake throughout the day to accomplish that goal.
Okay, fantastic. Again, I think there's a lot of negative press about Ozempic and, other GLP-1 agonists. I think they're largely unfounded. I think I love Dr. Tina Moore's work talking about so many benefits from taking GLP-1 agonists simply because as we age, the production of those reduce in our body and they have a very protective effect, and it's not just for weight loss. So I think there's a lot of negative press that's there's a lot of ignorance out there, and I think the pharmaceutical companies don't want us losing weight because then we're not going to buy all the cholesterol meds. We won't have the diabetes and the obesity and inflammatory related conditions if people lose weight, which is many, many more health risks than taking a GLP-1 agonist. That's my
I agree.
personal
Yeah.
opinion. Yeah, and so let's talk a little bit about, where people can find a location and just any other kind of information that you want listeners to have.
Yeah, so the easiest way to find the Liquivida location is just going to our website, liquivida.com. And we have locations throughout the nation. We're primarily based out of Florida. We have locations in Phoenix, in Arizona, in Texas, multiple cities in Texas, New Jersey, Connecticut. So we're actively selling franchises throughout the United States. So more locations will pop up. And if you want to find me on social media, I'm very active on spreading the word on health and wellness. You can go to my Instagram page, which is Sammy_Tejada, and that's on Instagram.
Okay, fantastic. And so when someone goes into the clinic and they want to get some IV therapy, what are some things people should expect?
Yeah, so when you come in, the first step that we do is a lifestyle assessment and questionnaire. We want to understand who you are, how you're living, and the potential issues that we're going to deal with to get your health back on track. So from there, we do a medical evaluation, a physical, to make sure that you are a candidate for these IV drips. So we're going to listen to lung sounds, get your blood pressure, make sure it's within normal range, because we are infusing volume into your body. So we don't want to raise the blood pressure where it's a critical level. And then from there, as long as it's clinically appropriate and safe, one of our providers will go ahead and make the recommendation of what IV drip is best for you. And then we would infuse it over a 30 to 60-minute period of time.
Okay, great. And so what are some misconceptions around IV therapy?
Well, the biggest misconception is that it's a fad, right? These are nutrients. And one of the things that I learned when I first started doing the IV drips and looking at the nutrients that go into the IV drips, and I'll go with the basic Myers cocktail, right? That has some ascorbic acid, some calcium gluconate, some magnesium. When you start looking at these different nutrients that are in there, that some people would call it a fad, coming from emergency medicine, I'd go to work and I'd look in my drug box and I'd see, oh, there's magnesium in there. There's potassium in there. There's adenosine monophosphate in there. There's a variety of other, nutrients, these minerals and stuff. Your body utilizes this to function. We even utilize these nutrients when you're in an emergency medical illness. When someone's in cardiac arrest, we give them some of these type of nutrients to get their heart going again. So your body actually utilizes this stuff. They use this in traditional medicine as well too. We're just using it at a different dosage, more on a preventative side, to make sure that you have the different raw materials that you need for your body to perform the way it should.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, and talk to us about your book. You wrote a book called How to Win in Modern Wellness. Can you describe that a little bit?
I did. So this is it, How to Win in Modern Wellness. So this book, what inspired me to put it together when I first got into the industry, that's almost a little bit over 11 years ago. When I started Liquivida, I got into the industry before that. So when I started Liquivida, a lot of my competitors, everyone was chanting, "Hey, we want to change the course of medicine. We want to take that proactive, preventative approach to your health and wellness." And what was happening is the competition was against each other. Everyone was butting heads. Everyone wanted, the biggest market share and this and that. And I told myself, I said, if we really want to change the course of medicine, it's not going to be us that are chanting the same thing being against each other. I mean, we all know about history, divide and conquer, right? That's just us being against each other. That's what these big players, big pharma mafia and all these other people want us, to do. So what I did, I decided to not go the cutthroat mentality, and I started building strong relationships with all my competitors. So as you saw on the cover of the book, there's multiple faces on that cover, and those are all these relationships that I made throughout the years with all the top CEOs and doctors in the industry. And what I decided to do, I said, you know what? I want to write a book and talk about how we're all winning together in the world of modern wellness. So what I did, I gave a chapter in the book to each and one of my competitors. And we're all talking about how we're winning together. So, me doing that has allowed us to collaborate at a bigger level, at a larger level, where, we created the association. One of the leading healthcare attorneys, who also has a chapter in the book, created the American IV Association. So we can focus on standardization and compliance. I was appointed as the chairman of the association back in January 2024. And we've been making some big moves, working with a lot of governing bodies, the medical boards, the state boards, on putting the standardization in place, and allowing them, giving them the information that allows them to create the regulations and a lot of these new medical modalities that we bring to the table. So, collaboration, in my opinion, is the way that we have to go to be able to see the success that we need to see here in the United States when it comes to health and wellness.
And where do you see the industry going in the future?
Well, right now we're in an interesting time, right? After post-election, you have RFK Jr., who is
Yes, so excited
yeah,
about that. So
make America
excited.
healthy again. This is something, I know a lot of the OG doctors in functional medicine that I don't think they even thought that they would see this in their lifetime. And for the next 4 years, if there is a chance to change the course of medicine, we're in it now. So I think there's going to be a huge shift. I think we're going to get a lot of the toxic chemicals out of our food, out of our environment. I think there's going to be a lot of new regulations to hold a lot of these bigger players accountable for what they've done. And I think medicine is going to be taking a better look at how it's done, where it's going to be taking more of a preventative approach versus treating only disease and symptoms, and focus more on the metabolic side, where we can focus on correcting these metabolic issues that people have through a lot of basic things, right? Exercise, nutrition, the supplementation. All of this stuff is for what people need, that unfortunately they haven't even received the basic education on what it should be, right? You look at the food pyramid, the thing's been upside down for how many years since they put it together? So there's a lot of things that have to change. And I think the next 4 years, we're going to see a lot of that.
So for anyone listening that really wants to detox their body, go to heavymetalsquiz.com. I created a quiz for you. It only takes a couple of seconds. Based on some lifestyle questions, you can get your toxicity score and get a free video series that answers all of your frequently asked questions about how to detox your body. Check it out, heavymetalsquiz.com. Yeah, I can't even express, I have not been this excited in a decade about the potential for the public to be more protected from the food companies, big agro, big pharma, and big dairy, and all these companies that kind of really collude to and get government subsidies to do so, to subsidize soy and corn and put all these toxins in our food. So I'm really thrilled about that as well. But Sam, thank you so much for coming on the show. That was really, really interesting. I honestly, I didn't realize that your clinics did so many different things in regards to, anti-aging, rejuvenation, and detoxification, peptides, and just all of the above. You're doing so much. So it sounds like it's just a one-stop shop for so many of your, just anti-aging and rejuvenation needs.
It is. And it's been a pleasure being here on your show. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. So tell us what your website is again.
So the website is liquivida.com. That's Liquui, as in Victor, IDA.com. And then you can find me also on Instagram, where I put a lot of health and wellness information. And that's at Sammy_Tejada. That's SAMMY_TEJADA.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Sam, thanks so much for coming on the show. And everyone, I'm Dr. Wendy Myers. Thanks so much for tuning in every week to the Myers Detox podcast, where I bring you experts from around the world to help you upgrade your health because you deserve to feel good. And my goal with this show is just to help you get those little missing pieces of the puzzle, or just get a new idea or new thing that you can try so that you can get to the underlying root causes of your health issues. So thanks for tuning in every week.
The Myers Detox podcast is created and hosted by Wendy Myers. This podcast is for information purposes only. Statements and views expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Wendy Myers and the producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.